Hello, welcome to this video. This video is going to be called For All the Failed Musicians Out There. So if you've clicked on this, you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen that representation of artistic failure, maybe even of life failure, of a life not lived how you wanted it. You know, maybe you had dreams when you were a teenager of being some successful rock star. You know, when you got to sort of 12, 13, you persuaded your parents to buy you a guitar or bass, and you plucked away at your favourite songs, and you got some covers down, and you started to jam up with your friends. It was the best laugh you'd ever had, and you thought, I really want to do this as a job. This would be the best job in the world. And so you started to practice regularly, and then you realised that you've got to actually write your own songs. So you start to write your own songs. You went out there, you started to get a little following. Maybe you went to a local studio, recorded a demo. And once you got that out, you decided to, you know, put on a gig for all your friends. So you went to your local music venue, asked them for a gig, and they said yes, couldn't believe it. They'd even pay you 50 quid and give you your drinks. Oh my God, it's like the big time. And then before you know it, you know, you've told all your mates, you turn up at the pub's packed, everybody loves it. They all look at you, they can't believe it. You come out of there feeling like kings. Everyone thinks you're brilliant. You've been standing on stage, you've got the lights on you, you're playing rock and roll. It's amazing. All your friends can't believe it. They sound like a real band, your friends say. You come out of there now full of this idea that this is really what you want to do. What should you do next? Who knows what we should do next? Maybe record another track. Well, let's book another gig. So you go back to the venue a few months later, maybe 6 weeks later, we do another gig. And very excitedly, you book that gig and you tell all your friends, but that gig, there's not so many turn up. So you go and book a gig somewhere else, maybe in another town, and when you get there, your friends aren't there. You maybe brought some of your friends in there, and they're jumping up and down at the front of the stage cheering, but everyone else is completely unimpressed. I call that the band arc. At that point, you are now facing the big problem you have when you form your own band. Now, at that point, you could fart around, maybe you join a few more bands and you go through the band arc, but at some point, you grow up, don't you? Yeah, I can't be messing around with this. You get a job, get married. Every time you get your guitar out, your wife or girlfriend's moaning at you. Why are you playing the guitar for? And don't you want to spend some time with me? Oh, okay. Then you put the guitar down and the kids come along. And before you know it, you have this quite nostalgic and warm memory of being with your mates in the band and how you had your band. But then you grew up, didn't you? And it was one of those things that happened in the past. Now, for many people who are like well balanced, that's it. They saw it as something they did when they were a teenager, and that's it. They moved on. They still like music. Maybe they get to their 40s and 50s when the kids are grown up, and they go back and get some drum lessons, and they bring up their old mates. Say, we should get a covers band, and you never know. They might even get out at the weekend and do some covers in the local pubs, and now they're playing cover versions. It doesn't matter whether people know who you are, and they get an extra 50 quid in their back pocket. It's quite good. They save it up and they buy the wife something at the end of the month. She doesn't mind them going out for a practice because she's getting a few prezzies bought her. It's all great, isn't it? You know, and it's like, that's your hobby. And you go onto the internet and you look around. Is there any old blokes talking about old music that I like? And you find my channel, don't you? Oh, I like him. He seems all right. I'll watch him. You know, I get it. But I'm not that, you see. I'm not that. I'm 56, nearly 57. I'll be 57 in about 3 weeks. I'm still doing this. I've got up today, shot some YouTube videos. Then I've come in, I played some drums, videoed myself drumming for a YouTube video. I'm working on music all the time, so I wrote some music, put some ideas down, demoed some ideas. I'm still doing it. You know, I got a gig at the weekend playing some covers at somebody's party. I'm being decked in, I'm getting paid. That's like a job for me. Wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't paid. I am still doing it, right? Now, it's interesting because when I think about my life and what I've done, I have this overriding feeling that I'm sort of like a failure, that I tried my best, but my best wasn't good enough, you know. And that's an overwhelming feeling. And I think a lot of musicians have that. And I think it's a graded scale. So some of you watching this might be actual musicians. You might be still toddling along doing it, but I bet you're finding it hard because the whole music industry is changing at the moment. And the work is dying away on every single level, you know. So you might be finding it hard. Maybe you're a professional drummer and you're on the wedding band circuit. Maybe some of you do better than you ever could before. But on the whole, those out there that still do it, I bet you're finding it hard. I was finding it harder and harder as time went on until the YouTube channel came along. There might be some of you that have exactly what I explained. There might be some of you who played when you were young and never picked the instrument up. But this failed musician thing, I think, hangs over many of us. And some of people are well balanced about it. Some people are not. Well, I want to tell you something that you might not know. I have never met a musician at any level, except for probably like Robert Plant or somebody like that, that didn't feel like their career was a failure in some way. I have friends who are in bands that sold 1 million records, that had hit records, hit albums, that were influential. And yet, because they weren't as big as the biggest bands in the world, the Led Zeppelin, the Beatles and the Metallicas, they don't feel like they did as well as they could. And when you get down, they will tell you stories about bad management, lack of distribution, not being able to have the records in the shop when the record came out or whatever it is. There's always a reason. And that usually is the case. There's usually a reason why it didn't happen, right? And that's the narrative that musicians have. They have this idea that they're failures and that they never quite did what they had in mind, right? Now, of course, this is an extremely poisonous idea, and it's an extremely poisonous thing to live with. It's something that I have lived with all my life, and I've had to come to terms with it. When I have got in situations where, the band was doing really well, I was playing for someone famous or whatever it is, I've always felt that either I've let them down in some way, in which way it didn't happen, I wasn't good enough in some way. And I think most musicians feel this. Of course, it's very easy to go online and, start checking out other musicians or the drummers, guitarists, and find people that are way better than you on every single level. Everybody can do everything now. And there's so many people out there that are doing it, and, and you go, oh my God. And then you suddenly realize the competition's so fierce. Now, every now and then, I will be out and about and I'll bump into one of my old students. Now, I would have known them when they were 16, 17 years old. Now they're 43 or something like that. And you bump into them in the do-it-yourself shop, and they're grown up. They're middle-aged nearly, pretty much. They got kids, they've got a pot of paint in one hand, and some brush in the other. Got to decorate the bedroom at the weekend. They've grown up. And when I see them, they always go, oh, it's Andy, And I, of course, remind them of a period in their life when they had no worries. They just went to music college every day. They sat around, we had a laugh, we had a joke, we chatted about Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix, and they got on stage and played, and we put on gigs, and and they got there, and then they got drunk afterwards. And they have this lovely, nostalgic, rosy memory of that time. And this is exactly like when you talk to bands that have made it, that have actually been really successful. They're always so nostalgic to that first period, the golden period, when they're on the way up, right? And I think this is key to understanding the nature of this phenomenon, is that musicians are happy when they feel like there's a future ahead for them. It's not that they actually want to make it. It's definitely not about the money. What it's actually about is this idea that there is something going on, and there is something going on into the future. I realised this, and I've realised it was so key, that if you feel that you have failed, or you haven't made it, or you've given up and you don't think you can do it and you used to do it, or whatever it is, all of those are really negative thoughts. What you have to realise, you are not trying to make it. There is no make it. It doesn't exist. There is no sort of musician's utopia that you'll suddenly arrive at. If you were to arrive there, it will be the worst thing that could ever happen to you, right? When I was a kid, all I did was music. I played 6 hours a day, the drums, 4 hours guitar every single day. That's all I did. I wasn't going to do anything else, because there's just nothing else I wanted to do. That's all I did. I bought records, listened to records, read up about music. I was obsessed with music. It suddenly emerged as the thing in my life. And you start to pursue it. You're pursuing it at every single level you possibly can. And you don't even know where you're pursuing it to, but you're pursuing something. There's something in the future. You're trying to move towards it all the time. And with that, I started to do stuff. And very quickly, I started to earn money. And that was quite interesting for me, because I was getting paid. Now, the money I was getting paid when I was like 18, 19 years old, I couldn't last for longer than about 3 hours on it. But back then when I was a kid, was at my mum and dad's, I could sort of go out on a gig, earn like 50, 60, 70 quid, And I had mates who were working full time, you know, at that point, and they were on 80 or 90 quid a week. So I wasn't far off that, just for going to some working men's club and playing on the night. And this was fascinating to me that they could do this. And then people would see me play and they would ring me up and say, can I have a drum lesson? And so as much as I wanted to play in a band, my natural talent, for some reason, went down towards earning money, playing in cover bands, playing cabaret stuff and teaching. And that's what I sort of fell into. And I felt like I'd failed. But a lot of people used to say, what do you do? I said, I teach music and I play in a band at the weekend. Like, oh my God, that's a brilliant life. To those people, it seemed amazing because I was going out, you know, so at that age, you know, I'm chatting to my mates who were like 18, 19, 20. And I go, well, you know, what do you do? I went out to this workmen's club. What do you have to play? Oh, it's a terrible read out with Houston songs. That's not so bad, is it? Yeah, let's play the drums. Now how much you get? I've got about 80 quid for it. What, 80 quid? Yeah. 80 quid. Bloody hell, I've had to work in a factory. I can remember when I finished college, I felt very guilty I hadn't got a job. I was living at home. And I said to my mate, I need to get a job. And he said, I'll have a chat with someone at work. So he goes to the workplace and they said, we can get you a job. Come down. It was in the print firm. So I turned up the next day at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm on 75 quid a week. And I go in, and in there is a massive pile as high as me of white paper. There's a massive pile of exactly the same paper, but in pink. Then another pile of them in green. And the bloke says, you've got to collate those. I didn't even know what collating means, but that meant taking the white one, putting it on top of the pink one, and putting it on top of the green one, and then putting it on the side. They basically wanted that. Now they have machines that will do this for you. So I started doing this, and I started to do it. And in there, the blokes aren't really talking. When they are talking, I've got nothing in common with them, but I'm sat there doing this. And the hours just crawl by. And I go, when's dinner time? And they went, 1 o'clock. And I said, how long is it? And they went, well, it's half an hour. You know, and I went, well, half an hour. So I get up to 1:30. You know, we're going up to about 5 o'clock, I think. Come back in, collate. And then we're done. And I go home. And when I get home, my dad says, what was it like today? And I just burst out crying because I was a namby-pamby musician who was used to making that money just by playing Whitney Houston songs. Okay? So in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty good. I started to realise this is pretty good. I'm going to do this. I'm going to choose to do something. I'm going to use it to make money. So I never played in bands. I never tried to do that. Later on, I was in bands to try to get a deal. And the first record deals I ever got was making dance music. I wasn't even playing, but that's by the by. My career eventually started to go, and I started playing this band and that band, and eventually I took a job playing in a tribute band, and I did that deliberately to get out of teaching, because by that time I was a full-time lecturer, and I had responsibilities and I taught classes, and it was not what I wanted to do. I didn't realise I had some sort of natural ability for teaching, and I didn't realise that I'm actually probably more talented at teaching than I am of actually playing. My esoteric interest in music ran counter to the way that you can make your money in the living. In the business. I wasn't cut out really to operate in that world. You know, I asked too many questions. I said too many sarcastic comments. I acted snobby. You know, I thought I had a ton of technique and chops. So I was better than anybody who didn't have that sort of level of technique. And I was a bit of a musical snob. I was a bit of a lazy person. I didn't want to, you know, there's all these things. And people picked up on that. I didn't know that at the time. So if I got rejected, I thought it was down to my playing. When I was young, I was quite arrogant. Like, well, how could they not have me? I'm really good, I am, you know. And then time goes on, you start to realise what makes a good musician, and being able to play fast in 1916 is that it's... so eventually, my nose that I'm following, and you can see I followed it, because look how big my nose is. I've followed it a lot. It's very easy to follow. My nose, I followed it, and I ended up playing with Robert Plant, which was very interesting for me, because my first real favourite, like mad-on band was The Police, Motorhead, and then I got into Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. And my favourite band was Led Zeppelin. I was obsessed with Led Zeppelin. And so it was very interesting to get the gig with Robert Plant. And then suddenly you go, well, this is it. And for those 2 years, I was in my late 20s when I first did it. I think I was about 29 when I joined that band. For the first 2 or 3 years, everything I did was like, oh my God, I'm here. I've made it. Oh my God, I've made it. You know, oh, I'm on a tour bus. Oh, I'm going to a big music festival. Oh my God, it's been televised. Oh my God, BB King's here. Oh my God, he said hello to me. He's chatting to me. Oh my God, I've met so-and-so. Oh, it's like this. The whole thing was like that. Oh, I've got paid loads of money. I don't have to do anything else. Everyone thinks I'm brilliant. This is it. This is it. I've made it. I was like 30 years old. Now, I hadn't made it. I just had a good gig. And eventually that gig, as it always does, spits you out. Now, this is the thing you got to understand. Nobody in the history of this business, not even Michael Jackson or Prince or Elton John, none of them made it. They got to a certain point, right? They had one day where they probably thought, my God, this is incredible. And that was the moment where they were at their peak. They were at their peak. And once you get to your peak, you could only go downhill. And it doesn't matter how much success you have, you will always want more, because this is the psychology of musicians. They always want more. They love that idea that they're on that escalator and it's going up. And at some point it starts to drop down. And you won't believe it. You might have had like 1 million number ones and sold 10 million records or whatever that is. But when that starts to go and you have made that your raison d'etre, to use some French, but I don't often use, that then comes crashing around you. Now, I have no idea what this is like, except for the very small fact that in 2001, Robert decides to change the band, and he rings up and says, I'm not doing the band anymore. And I was like, what? I got no job. I've got no other life. I've spent 2 or 3 years of my life just waiting for someone to tell me, where to turn up, going off on a tour bus or on an airplane and touring and gigging. That's all I'd done. That's all I'd done. Everybody wanted to sign me. The companies wanted to endorse me. Everyone was interested in me. It's like, I could do no wrong. And the minute I was dropped from it, it all went back to normal. As soon as I told anybody in the business that I was no longer playing with Rob Band, I was gone. That was it. It was amazing. So people who have real success, when it suddenly starts to go and they start to notice that, when all the perks and all the sort of creepiness and all the sort of adulation, when that suddenly goes, they know they're on the other side. And the thing is, it's not like being a normal person. I mean, in a normal person, you might get a job, you do that job, you get to around about 40 or 50 and you're thinking, oh God, I've done everything I'm going to do. But you are 40 or 50. For people in bands, it could be 23 years old that happens. You could be spat out at any time, right? And then we have the business. The business is not interested in bands and longevity. The business is interested in profit, or it was. I mean, the profits come elsewhere now. But in the old days, you sign a band up, they spend some money, they get an album out. If they can sell that album, great, and they make a profit. As soon as they get a whiff that something's changed, and of course, this business is fickle, because the whole thing is based upon being cool. That's why everyone wants to do it. Nobody ever that I have met wanted to get a gig playing for like the Wiggles or Bananas in Pyjamas or the Grumbleweeds or anything like that. They wanted to be in something cool. I used to say to my students, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be in a gigging band. And I told them a story. I said, I can remember playing at Butlins once, and I can remember I did the gig. I was in a covers band, and then we were supporting Bananas in Pyjamas, which was a kids' show, and they basically took it out on tour. So there's some bloke playing guitar dressed as a banana. Couldn't see his face. He got these sunglasses on, and he's playing he's dressed as a foam. Well, he's in a foam banana suit, and I thought, well, he's making a living. He's getting played. There was about 2,000 people watching this, all little toddlers, mind, but loads of kids watching these Bananas in Pyjamas. So that's a good gig. That'll keep going. And I used to say to my students, would you want that gig? Oh, no, I don't want that. Right? You have to understand the psychology of this. People want to be cool. The trouble with being cool is that you can only be cool for a certain amount of time. And as soon as you've been there for a while, you turn into something that's completely uncool. There's nothing more uncool than a band that's not new. And all these cool 80s bands that were the coolest thing, now you go to Butlins and they are there. And you go, oh my God, that's Human League. And which one's this? It's Flock of Seagulls. Oh God, I remember them. It's a bloke with the funny hair. The bloke in Flock of Seagulls is known for his haircut. His whole life is based around the fact that he had a haircut that we can say, oh, I remember them, Flock of Seagulls, yeah. They got the haircut, that's the one, they are them. And that's what happens when you're in a band. For me, right, I played with Robert Plant. Oh, Andy played with Robert Plant. Really? Yeah, I played for Robert Plant. When I've told them it about 100 times, they get sick of it. I still can't quite believe it myself. I wake up and think, bloody hell, I play Robert Plant. Did I really play Robert Plant? Nah, you did, you remember? Because weird, wasn't it? So I was playing drums for Robert Plant. I was his drummer. It seems weird. The whole thing seems weird. But that's me. 2001, when that thing stopped, I ended up having to go back into covers bands. I've got absolutely no money. I'm back living at my mum and dad's because, there's no money coming in. I've spent all the money on cars and stuff like that. nowhere near as bad as some people who have a drug habit and they're in debt, you know, and their life is absolutely chaotic. Nothing like that. That wasn't going on. And but I was really not quite right. And it was interesting because at that point, me being quite philosophical and quite sort of questioning, I started to question what I was doing. And by 2005, 4 or 5 years later, I think I'd nailed it. And I was able to get myself back into the business. I was doing drum clinics, I was playing in progressive rock bands. And I had this second sort of wave of fame. It was nowhere near like playing with rock bands, but I was in a band that people heard of, I was doing nice gigs. And I felt I got myself back. But what I didn't realise was this poison that I'm talking about was still in me. In 2001, when I was having a really bad time, and my dad had said something to me, I'd blown up at him because I wasn't happy, and I'd stormed off up the stairs. And as I went up the stairs, I stopped, and my dad turned around. Mum didn't think he could. He didn't think that I could hear, and he said, "The trouble with Andrew is he has done everything that he wanted to do in his life. It's now done. He's never going to do anything to top that. Right? He's got to get his head round that. He'll never do anything that's like that." And when I heard it, it went through me. And I thought, my God, that's right. But it wasn't right. Because I think that the YouTube I'm doing now is possibly the biggest thing I've done in my whole life. I think more people have watched this and know me through this than any band I've ever played in. And once this took off, and this slow climb up on the YouTube has been feeding me in a certain way, because that progression, see, musicians think they want to make it, and this is the point of this video. This is what I want to try and get across to anybody who feels that what I'm saying resonates. And no one's going to talk about this on a YouTube video, but it's like the most important thing to get your head around this. You don't really want to make it. You think you do, but you don't. Okay? And what you want to feel is that you are sustaining your ability to do music. You started off wanting to make it because that feeling, when everything was in that band and how great it was, you just want to sustain that feeling. No one's interested in making money. No one's approached it like a business. Nobody wants to set up a limited company that's the band and do all that and get accounts in. Nobody wants to do any of that that's in band. They just want to have that feeling, right? And that feeling can come from all sorts of places. The thing that will keep you feeling okay in yourself is to feel like you're moving forward. You have to feel like you're moving forward. Now, I've had about a couple of years where this YouTube's been climbing and climbing and climbing. Now, I'm always trying to be honest on this YouTube. I always try and say what I'm thinking about. I have suddenly dipped down and I'm like back in a sort of depression again. Oh, and I notice this. Oh, what's the matter? And there's stuff going on at home. There's always, you know, you've always got like real life, and it's always horrible, isn't it? Real life, you know, it's always got problems. You don't know how to solve them, all that type of stuff. But at least you get lost in the fact that you're a YouTuber and you've got all these subscribers. It's going up and everyone's going, oh, your YouTube's doing well. I was watching the other day, you know, it's all wonderful, isn't it? But over the last few months or so, my views have dropped. They've really dropped. The subscribers adding have dropped. And I had this thing, I thought, at the end of the year, I'm going to hit 100,000 subscribers. Well, I'm not now because it's all dropped down. I don't know what it is, right? Maybe I'm not delivering the content like people want. Maybe the algorithms change. Maybe Trump's done something and said that anyone who's using American YouTube has to, you know, maybe I'm not getting the same cut because I'm English. Who knows what it is? Maybe my content's not as good. Maybe I've been doing too much comedy. Maybe there's not enough comedy, and I can feel the anxiety. This poison is coming in. Oh, God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's nothing to do with them. I mean, I'm earning my living out because it's not that, because I'm pretty sure I can maintain this. Who knows? This is the whole point, isn't it? The thing is, for the first time, I've gone into a real dip. Now, it's hopefully a month, 2 months, 3 months, it'll come out. Maybe these things happen. Other YouTubers have said that they're suffering with this as well. And so this video might be useful. And I'll try and put that in the title as well, because it would be nice, because I keep Googling, you know, YouTube videos dropping off. March 2021, I'm not seeing anything. But then YouTubers, I know other YouTubers have messaged me and said, it's really weird how it suddenly just died. I mean, it's really died. And especially if you've gone through the music industry collapsing, especially if you've seen all that, and then you go, oh my God, The tide is rising all the time, and the ability to be creative, because that is all I want. I want the ability to be creative. That's all I want. That's all you want, right? And I thought about this in depth over the last few days, and I came to a conclusion that what I'm really missing, and the reason why this is happening, is because I've been doing this long enough to become, I now know what I'm doing. And I've felt that for a while. I know how to do YouTube videos. I know how to talk on them. I know how they work. I know which ones will do well. I know which ones won't do well. If the views drop off, I come in here and do exactly the video. And as soon as it goes out, the viewers go shooting up and all that type of thing. And my regular viewers go, well, you don't come for this type of content. I said, I know, because my regular viewers want proper me chatting about music, me talking about all this. Without a doubt, the greatest knowledge I have is this sort of advice for younger creative musicians, because I've spent 30 years working with them, and I know that this business is not about telling people how to make it. That's quite simple. It's about assuaging their anxieties, and I think that is the most useful thing I do here, and try and explain the objective and subjective parts of music. Musicians, however, are not creating music because they want to create. It's not, people don't know what artists are. They don't create because they want to say something about the world. They've got a thing they want to say about the world and how it works. They don't do it for that. They do it because they're compelled to do it. And once they do it, they go into this sweet space where they're like in the moment. They're like surfing through the now, you know, the world outside marries up with the world inside, and the voices are abated because the voices become useful because they can feed the creative person stuff. And then that person can get it down there. When it's done, they go, oh my God, I feel okay. And if they have some experience that really, where they've created something and it's reached the audience, which is the reason why you do it, and the audience has responded, and you feel like there's a progression and that is building, at that point, the demons and all the horror sort of drops down, it reduces down, right? So I know that I might need to have another challenge. I might need to have something else to get my teeth into, which I have put in place. I'm setting up a few other YouTubes, and I'm expanding all over the place at the moment, which is what I'm doing. And I'm hoping that that does the job, but I don't know whether it will do the job. But that is my advice. My advice to this video is anybody who feels like they failed, right? There is no not failing. There is just doing. You just have to do it. Right? And if you know you're going to be doing it today, and there's a chance you're going to be doing it tomorrow, and you feel like things are moving forward, they don't have to be going up, they just have to be moving forward. One of the practical ways you can do is just get organised, just get a diary and go, right, I'm going to do this on that day, I'm going to do a photo session there, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'll write a biog that day, and set yourself tasks. And I have, you know, was rubbish at this when I was younger. But now I'm very, very good at it. And this is why I can create so many videos and so much content, and I can make albums. Because basically, I get up in the morning and I work. And I try and make it so I can work. You work. You put the stuff out. Once you've made the stuff, you make sure it goes out. You take feedback from it. You see what the audience likes. You see what they don't like. You don't worry about whether anything's any good. You're not trying to create perfection. If you're trying to create perfection, you will fail. Because you'll spend your whole life trying to work towards perfection. Now, you're trying to sustain yourself, which means you're going to make music today, you're going to make music tomorrow, and when in 30 or 40 times you look back on the music you made when you were younger at that point, it will be different to what you're doing now, and it will also be the same in a certain sort of way. The key to the failure that we feel as musicians is to realise it's the creative challenge you want. Okay, end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.